All right, everybody. We are today going to talk about the next group in our ACP unit, the Chaldeans. Now, the Chaldeans didn't rule for too long, so this is going to be actually a pretty short notes video. So, as you'll remember from the end of the Assyrian video, the Chaldeans take over after the Assyrian Empire crumbles because Ashurbanipal dies. The next ruler isn't as strong. There's rebellions, and the empire is too large to control. So the Chaldeans were a province near Babylon, and they take over a piece of the Assyrian Empire for their new empire here. The rest of the Assyrian Empire included like Egypt and all this other stuff. So those go back to being independent. This is the Chaldeans. Now, you remember we mentioned them when we talked about the Hebrews, how the Chaldeans forced the Hebrews to leave their homeland and move to Babylon. So you've heard this name Chaldeans a few times before. So they're led by a king whose name is Nebuchadnezzar. Now, I know some of you are like, say what? Nebuchadnezzar. If it helps you like pronounce it, Nebu, Chad, Nezer. Except you don't say it like that. That would help if you were like writing it to spell it. Nebuchadnezzar. So he is the greatest king of the Chaldeans. Chaldeans, as I mentioned in the Assyrians video, are also known as the Babylonians because a lot of the people that are in leadership positions in the Chaldean Empire are from Babylon. So it's a lot of times they refer to them as, the Babylonians are in charge because most of the people doing the work were from Babylon. Because Babylon is a humongous city. There is about 1 million people that lived in Babylon at this time. That is a lot for an ancient city. And just so where Babylon is like right over here, Nineveh, the old Assyrian capital, is right over there. All right. So Babylon, being the world's biggest city at this time, is also the world's richest city at this time. They also have their own police force and their own postage system. Now, there were huge walls that surrounded the city. And this really fancy gate, and I'm going to show you a picture in a second, is called the Ishtar Gate, and it was the main entrance to Babylon. Now, Ishtar was the Mesopotamian goddess of love, and the gate has pictures of lions on it because lions were believed to be a symbol of Ishtar, like a symbol of love. So, this is from a museum in Berlin, Germany, and this is a piece of the Ishtar Gate. Yeah. So you can see those lions on it. Pretty impressive structure there. Okay. Now, in the center of Babylon, you had palaces, you had temples, and a huge ziggurat. Because remember, these are still Mesopotamians. So if the Assyrians are version 2.0, the Chaldeans, I would say, is Mesopotamia version 3.0. So you'll remember a ziggurat is that Mesopotamian temple. And when the sun shined on the golden roof of the ziggurat, because it was so big, that like glimmer could be seen for miles and miles. Another really famous thing in Mesopotamia is something called the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Now, King Nebuchadnezzar supposedly had this built for his wife that was from Persia. So she was homesick, according to this legend, and Nebuchadnezzar has this built to remind his wife of her homeland because she missed it. Now, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, I'm going to show you an artist rendition of it right there. You could see, pretty impressive. Interesting thing about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, they were part of a list that is known as the 7 Wonders of the Ancient World. Those of you that did pyramids for your Egypt research essay, I remember reading in some of them how the pyramids are part of the ancient wonders of the world. That is definitely true. The pyramids are actually the only ones still standing out of the original list. Hanging Gardens of Babylon are no longer around. They think what might have happened is as the Persians take over, the Persians really didn't take care of this kind of thing, and it kind of faded into existence. Now, archaeologists, this is an interesting thing about the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Archaeologists have never found where they were at, but they have a clue at where they're at. So Hanging Gardens of Babylon, you would think would be near Babylon, right? So archaeologists for years and years were trying to find where the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were, because you would think there'd be definitely like a pipe system found and all this other kind of stuff. And they never found it in Babylon. So it led to some historians thinking, did this thing even exist? Or was it like fake news? Like, was it like made up? And that really didn't sit well with historians, because they were like, no, it's definitely real, because so many people from ancient times wrote about it and drew drawings of it and things like that. Like, this is so weird that we can't find evidence. Well, a few years ago, they found some archaeological evidence of what is probably the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, but they were not in Babylon. They were up north in the ancient Assyrian capital city of Nineveh. Now, for a split second, archaeologists were like, does this mean the Assyrians had the Hanging Gardens? No. And then they piece things together, and here's their latest theory they think happened. So, as you can see, so like Nineveh would be like right here. So, as you can see, this is the Chaldean Empire, also, as I mentioned, sometimes called the Babylonian Empire, the Babylonians. So, what they think is maybe the Hanging Gardens of Babylon were named that because they were part of the Babylonian Empire, not that they were from the city of Babylon. So that would kind of solve the mystery regarding that. Now, you're going to learn a lot more about the 7 wonders in the ancient world another day. We'll go through all of them and all that kind of stuff. All right. Now, as I mentioned, part of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. Now, Nebuchadnezzar also had this limestone, marble, and glazed tile street built outside his palace. And every spring, there would be a massive pep rally type celebration for the coming harvest. And it would involve the wheeling of a statue of the Chaldean god Marduk throughout the city. So Marduk is the god of the city of Babylon, and they would do this for good luck for the harvest. They would basically have a huge celebration. Now, outside of the city, you had homes and markets. Artisans had pottery, clothes, baskets to trade, and there were caravans, these groups of traveling merchants that would make stops in Babylon to trade for all these products. And people from India and Egypt really liked these Babylonian-made artisan products. Now, Babylon is also the center of science. Chaldeans were astronomers. They were people that collected, studied, and explained facts about the sky, and they thought changes in the sky revealed the plans of the gods. So what they would do is they would make maps of the sky and study phases of the moon. They are also responsible for creating something called a sundial. Now, sundials, let me show you. For those of you that don't know, a sundial is kind of like this. And what happens is the way the sun shines, the shadow like moves throughout the day, and it tells what time it is, like the hour hand. So there you can see. So as it goes, as the sun like moves, then it's like telling the time. So look at the Chaldeans figuring that out. They are also the first civilization to divide their calendar into 7 days in a week, just like we do. Now, As time goes on, once again, similar story. Nebuchadnezzar dies. They can't really control the areas they conquer. And there are revolutions happening in the Chaldean-controlled lands. And as the Chaldeans are trying to stop the revolutions for city-state freedom that is happening, the Persians, which are a group of people from what is today Iran, come in and steamroll the Chaldeans and take it all over. And they're a group you'll learn about in the next notes video.